your car. If you did, you're not having a good day now because it's raining outside. So just making sure you're aware of that. Who remembers what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks? I'm trying to hurry because I've only got 27 minutes, and so I've got to get it done. We've been talking about smile. Who's got your smile with you tonight? Anybody got? Oh, Matt, you get 2 extra points. Sister Janie got her smile on. All right, I love it. Anybody notice we still have some extras? If you did not get your smile, there's some up here on the front, and you're welcome to get them. Hey, Brother Brian, go ahead and get us our key verse, Acts 2:28. Say Acts 2:28. You're used to saying what? 38, but we're getting the significance of 2:28. And I'll be getting another verse here to go with it. I apologize, my printer's not printing, it's out of ink, and so I'm having to use my little screen. And you don't want me looking at my little screen if I don't put my reading glasses on, because you might get false doctrine. Anybody besides me play trombone with your glasses a little bit? Am I the only one? Okay. When you got it, Brother Brian, show it. Oh, okay. Somebody read it for me. Acts 2:28, real loud.
Thou hast made known to me the ways of life. Thou shalt make me full of joy with thy countenance.
So we understand that looking on the face of God, that He can make us full of joy, and it should show in our face. Do you not realize that when you smile, you impact others? Your countenance affects them, right? Just a few minutes of review. So, Rosie, if you came up to me and I'm going, are you going to run to me or run from me? Run the other way, okay? Who admits our countenance has an impact on relationships and the ability to connect? And I shared, just a few minutes of review, I shared with some of you how in sales, I was able to sell and do quite well in that industry because of my ability to smile. I genuinely like people. I enjoy finding out about them and what makes them tick. I never meet a stranger. If I've known them a minute or two, they're no longer a stranger, right? And so smiling is critically important. So we broke that down into an acrostic, an acronym. And so last week we looked at the S of smile, which was sensitivity. I've already heard 2 or 3 testimonies this week of some of you who have benefited from being sensitive to other people's circumstance. And it's amazing. These are each individual, but they lay over top of each other, because we went from sensitivity last week, and tonight it is, everybody say, meaningful. Meaningful. I feel so sorry for our Spanish speakers. English must be awful confusing because the root of meaningful is mean. If you look at the word mean, it's kind of a misnomer to what meaningful is. Now, I don't have the video to show because our computer has crashed. But when we first quickly went through smile, I talked about meaningful, and I said everybody just wants to get that magnet from their insurance guy or that pen from their bank. It just means so much. Who wants to get a refrigerator magnet from your spouse for Christmas? Some of you are going, I'd just like to get anything for my spouse for Christmas, right? Okay. Who's ever got a gift that was not meaningful? Instead of using Merriam-Webster's dictionary, I will use some practical examples of explaining what meaningful is. Somebody said a spider. Did y'all say a spider? Did you say a spider is meaningful? Okay, you lost me there. I was like, wow. Okay, so what's a non-meaningful gift? Who's ever gotten, dads, who's ever gotten that Goodwill necktie? You know, you wouldn't even use it to wrap a noose with, right? Come on. It's just awful, okay? Brian shared with me a meme. He says, Hey, let's celebrate Mother's Day, and here's a catalog with gifts, between $1,200 and $1,800, and then Father's Day comes along, and it's like, hey, buy your dad a new undershirt, $4.99. Woo! You know, who's ever regifted something? Thank you, brother. I appreciate some honesty in this house. Regifted. I made a mistake one time. I regifted a gift and gave it back to the person who gave it to me. And it kind of became a reoccurring gag, and we kept gifting it back and forth. But if we bought a meaningful gift, my children for Father's Day outdid themselves. It may not have been the most expensive gift, but it was one of the most endearing gifts I have ever gotten. Who knows I love music? I love good old gospel music, and they're just not making much of it anymore. And so when I go to Goodwill, I look through the records, and I'll usually find I found Lanny Wolf Trio live at Woodbine United Pentecostal Church in 1974, dual album, man. And I have found the Happy Goodman Family. I have found Teddy Huffman and the Gems. Just some great old Southern gospel. The problem is, when was the last time you saw a record player for sale at Walmart? You don't. My children know my love of music. They also know that my dad, for most of my growing up years, when he drove us to school, he had a 69 VW bus. Tony, you remember the one with the straight seat in the front, rubberized throughout? Awesome, good memories. Then my first car was a VW Beetle. They purchased for me a miniature blue VW bus, but you set it on top of a record that's sitting on top of a table, and it spins around it, and it plays the record. It's got a speaker in the top. And as it spins, it drives like it's doing donuts. It plays. I feel so good just being here again. Y'all don't know that? Oh, happy day. Oh, happy. I love it. What a great gift. I put it on my nightstand, and every night before I go to sleep, I just look at, who knows I love my grandbabies? But I put it back in the box and hid it in my bedroom. You can't touch this. Why? Because it meant so much to me. I don't want to see it destroyed. Right? They wouldn't do it on purpose, but it would happen. Meaningful. Do you know to be meaningful, you have to put some thought into it? Who's ever bought the lie that if I just throw a lot of money at a gift, that'll mean a lot to them? Well, if you want your money to mean a lot as a gift, just give the money. Don't buy an expensive gift. Okay. Are we not in a day that gift cards are a pretty common thing? Do you appreciate a gift card? Sure. But somebody who took time to know you and know your hobbies and your interests and your color preferences, that you're not an Auburn fan, you're an Alabama fan, yay, right? When they take time to get to know you, then that gift becomes more special because you're sending a message to them that you've noticed, not just that they're alive, but you've taken an interest. Now, you've heard me talk before about Fiesta dishes. Did you ever think you'd see a 53-year-old man from Alabama going into, there's businesses on the square in Lebanon that specialize in antique ware and dishes. Brother Namor, about every time I get a chance, I go by that square, I get out, and I go in, and I go upstairs, and I look, see if they have any new or unique pieces of Fiesta dishes. I bought you several pieces from there, hadn't I, babe? Is it because I love Fiesta? No. I love her, and she loves Fiesta because it's important to her. Guess what it is to me? It's important to me. When you give a gift that's meaningful, it's because you've taken time to know the person. Does that make sense? Who's ever received a gift that he's like, well, they don't know me very good. I ain't never going to eat that. I ain't going to wear that. Do you really think I'm an extra small? Do you even know me? Come on, guys. Who's ever had that thought? And it's kind of a disconnect. So we need to remember, if we're going to be meaningful, we're going to have to get to know our subject. So we're working on our smile, making ourselves approachable. Be sensitive to people. Okay? Not just sensitive, but then do things that are meaningful. You remember Eutychus fell out of the upper window. Paul had preached way too long and it had gotten hot, and we don't know if he fell asleep or he slipped into a coma. We don't know if it was heat stroke. We just know that he fell out. Now, could Paul have gotten mad? How dare you fall asleep? Create a disruption while I'm preaching the anointed gospel. The Bible says he left and he went down into the street where he's at. He said, Sister Caban gave me this water bottle to give you. Thank you for visiting our service today. Would that be a meaningful gift for a person who has just fallen out of a window? Here's a water bottle. Here's a guest card. Have a pen. We're glad you're with us today. What did Paul do? He noticed the need, and he left what he was doing to go meet that need. The Bible says that he put out his hand, he prayed, and he lifted it and carried him back upstairs. Now, he went back to preaching. Get that clear. So if y'all start passing out in here, we're going to pray for you to recover, and then we're going to go back to preaching. Otherwise, you're going to just keep falling out everywhere. Okay. What are you saying? I'm saying to be successful in making meaningful connection with people, you've got to take time to know their likes, dislikes, and where they're at, what's going on. Is it a disconnect? Say, oh, I want you to come visit our church, and you see them struggling? Guys, we're not going to be able to effectively impact this generation if they're worried about their next meal, if they're worried about how they're going to get to work, if they're struggling to overcome addiction, if they're struggling to cope with fears and anxieties, and we don't address those things, we're not going to be very... So not only do we got to be sensitive, we've got to have meaningful connections with them. Who in here has lost a loved one? Okay. Who in here is a busy person? Okay. Who has just bought into the idea, I'm too busy to go to funerals? I'm guilty. I'm busy. Send flowers. Okay. Until my dad died. And you think, well, I know it's a whirlwind, a lot of responsibility. You may not, but I can tell you almost everybody who took time to come, and I noticed a few who didn't. I don't hold grudges on those who didn't come, but it did stand out to me, those who forsook other responsibilities to make an investment in my family. So you're saying, Pastor, what are some meaningful investments? Well, I just named one. We got to make legitimate investments in other people. Who in here's had a birthday? What did it mean to you when somebody sent you a note or mailed you an actual card? Not an e-card, but an actual. What if you actually got a card in the mailbox, a handwritten note? Okay. Gallup poll survey reveals that the number one most touching gift you can send somebody is a personalized note, a handwritten expression of gratitude or appreciation. Number one. How many of us have a box of note cards and some stamps at our house? I know who it is because I get cards from y'all. I know who you are, okay? Who's ever received a piece of correspondence from the church handwritten, a card? Okay, because that's all we have to do, right? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? It's critically important to send something meaningful. Do you know what? People know when something is a chain letter. It's kind of like that magnet. Here's your water bottle. Here's your water bottle. Just take it around. Now, did Jesus exemplify meaningful investments? Yes. John 11:35 says what? Jesus, shortest verse in the Bible, wept. Jesus wept. And you know the story there. His friend Lazarus had died. He wasn't caught off guard. He knew he was sick unto death, and he delayed his coming. And we know in hindsight, he delayed his coming that he may reveal he has power of the resurrection. It would build hope. He said, I'm glad for your sakes I was not here. Now you know my resurrecting power. And Martha said, we know you're the resurrection. He says, I am the resurrection, and I am, everybody say, the life. You ever thought about that? I'm not just the resurrection, I'm the life. Preachers can be very bad about dismissing your real life problems, but it's all going to be better in the by and by. When we get to heaven, none of this will matter. On and on and on. Guys, I'm glad for heaven. I'm glad that there's a reward for those who have been obedient and diligent and faithful and allowed God to use you. But here's the thing. Some of us have got some living to do between here and there. Peter's got bills to pay, medicine to take, problems to solve, adversity to overcome. Jesus said, I'm not just about the resurrection. I'm not just about the hereafter. I'm also coming to meet your needs in the here and now, the physical life. How do we prove that? Explain to me why Jesus wept. He knew he had power over the grave, did he not? I delayed my coming. I wanted to demonstrate to you what can happen through an intimate connection with deity, resurrecting power. He knew for what cause he came. So why did he weep? If he knew I'm fixing to speak the words and Lazarus is come forth, why did he weep? It's not a rhetorical question. Why did he weep? I can't hear you. His compassion. He wanted to sympathize with them and meet them on an emotional level. How insulting is it for you to pour your heart out to somebody and say, well, time heals all wounds? Is that what they want to hear? Who in here spends all your time formulating what your response is going to be instead of listening? A good therapist talks very little, but listens to every minute detail. Now, I'm not telling you have to be like me. I am telling you that maybe there's some things I could teach you in the area of making meaningful connection. Do you know we have guests here on a regular basis? Do you know at some point some of you were guests? Who remembers when you were a guest here? We don't have visitors. We don't have visitors. Who remembers when you were a guest? Okay. So little things that I do, very, 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 let me use one more, very important. Know people's names. What does it say to them when you don't know their name? I know we've gone to church together 7 years. Who's ever propagated this lie? I'm just not very good with names. So you don't know your wife's name? You don't know your kid's name? You don't know your pastor's name? What are you really saying? They're not important enough to me to take the time to learn their name. That's kind of hard, isn't it? Who's ever heard of a guy named W.A. Criswell? W.A. Criswell. Back in my Bible college days, he pastored the largest church in the United States of America. It was First Baptist Church of Dallas, Texas. Boy, they do everything bigger in Texas. At that time, in active members, I mean people who were there every service, active members, they had, I don't mean drive-by, I don't remember off-site campuses, I'm not talking evangelistically, they would have over 10,000 people in their Sunday morning worship service. This is 1991, 92. Do you know W.A. Criswell had a doctorate degree in theology, had a master's degree in business, but do you know what he did every Monday and Tuesday in his office? Anybody remember the Polaroid camera? He had volunteers to every new face, every new person. They would take a Polaroid snapshot of that individual, and they'd take a little piece of tape on the back, and they'd write that person's name. And then his secretary would take a hole punch and put a hole in the corner of that Polaroid, and they had those big, remember those hoops, those big steel hoops, and they'd lock at the top. And he would sit at his desk all day Monday and part of the day Tuesday until he knew every face and its name. I'm asking you a question. How important are people? I hear Black Lives Matter. I hear Blue Lives Matter. All lives matter to God. There is nothing in this earth that we're going to take with us. It is a shame that we know who played on what baseball team in what year and who was in what episode of whatever sitcom that ain't going to matter 5 years from now. And we don't know the person who deigns to come in this sanctuary on a Sunday morning because I'm not good with names. The stuff that you were following won't go with us. People are the only currency that's going to matter in an eternal fashion, and we don't want to take time? What would it mean to you that if you were here once and you came back 2 weeks later for your second visit and somebody actually knew your name? What would that mean to you? I literally have had people cry when I knocked on their door after a visit, knocked on their door, and I knew their name, I knew their kid's name, knew their pet's name. Just kidding. I've literally had people cry, I'm nobody. Why would you take time? Well, you're important to us and you're important to God. We must develop skills and systems in our lives that help us be meaningful. Jesus wept to connect with Mary and Martha. Sadler's opinion, I qualify it. Do you know that Jesus must needs go through Samaria where no Orthodox Jewish leader would ever go? Was it because they had the best bottled water? No, because there was a woman at the well that he had a divine appointment to meet. You may disagree with that, but Jesus' earthly ministry always was about meeting people at where they were at to lead them to where they could be. But you got to stop and meet them. You got to have meaningful conversation and dialogue. Now, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. I know I have some introverts in here. But who in here thinks with a large amount of tranquilizers, you could be coaxed to go up to another person and tell them your name? You're not good with names, but do you know your name? Am I okay? Y'all look really perplexed. If you go to that person and said, my name is James. My name is James. What's the natural follow-up to that? What's your name? What is your name? Who's ever heard me do this? What's your name? They'll tell me. Before I go, what's your name again? One more time. I want to make sure I get it right. What are you telling them? I might have to ask you 15 times right now, but I want to make sure, because why? You are important. I want to know your name. You're a valuable commodity. If God's got the hairs of your head numbered, he's done the hard part. I just got to come up with your name. Okay. Who remembers that Jesus crossed a sea to go meet a demoniac that nobody else had time for? Meaningful connections. Who knows that Jesus, the cursed city of Jericho, wasn't even supposed to be rebuilt, but Jesus is going by Jericho. Oh, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus did what? He said, here's a pen. Here's our church calendar. Hey, we're having a Christmas special. What did he do? He went and ministered to the guys, everybody say needs. You want to make meaningful connection, meet a need. One of the best things I think I ever did, we had a family in the church at that time that lost a loved one suddenly, and I didn't know what to do for them, and I knew they had a funeral procession to be in, and they had a work vehicle that had some mud on it and stuff. Now, I'm not bragging on it, I'm telling you, meaningful. They're fixing to go through this cavalcade of cars and go to the cemetery. I just says, hey, can I have your keys? I took their minivan, and I went and washed it and vacuumed it out, checked the oil, and topped it off with gas. What'd that cost me? $40. I ran into them recently at another church. They said, that's been X amount of years ago. I will never forget what you did. You understand, meeting people at a point of need? Who's ever had to move in a hurry? You find out who your friends are when you got to move. Say amen. Hey, if you don't have any friends, David said to him, he's got a moving business. He'll be glad to help you. He's got a truck. He's got a truck. That's half of a moving business right there. Just kidding, Bo Stidham. Just kidding. So, I've had to move ministerially. I've had to move a couple times on short notice, and you find out who your friends are. Okay? I got a couple of guys. There's a debt there I can't repay. What do you think it does for me and my willingness to meet their needs going forward? It's huge. Okay, so we really want to be meaningful in our relationships. I'm trying to skip a bunch of stuff because I'm running out of time. Maybe you're not old enough to remember this, so I'll share it. It's old news to some of us. Do you remember the story where the pig and the chicken would do something nice for the farmer? He's always so good to them. Fed them every day, watched out for them. And they decided we want to fix him a nice big breakfast. Bacon and eggs. And the pig thought about that for a minute. He said, well, yeah, Mr. Chicken, for you, that's just a gift. For me, that's an ultimate sacrifice. Now, I'm not asking anybody here to make that kind of sacrifice. But if it didn't cost you anything, will it be a meaningful investment to someone else? Jesus talked about that our giving, our investment in others, we should feel it. There were those that had plenty of money, and they poured gold doubloons or whatever currency, drachmas or dineros or pesos, whatever they were given. Oh, they gave a bunch of money. And Jesus marveled at the little woman. She only gave 2 mites. It wasn't how much it was. It's that on her income, she really felt it was sacrificial giving. Now, you'll hear preachers talk about those kind of things when it talks about taking a big offering. Tonight, I'm not asking for a big offering. I'm asking, could you develop a passion in yourself to smile? First, be sensitive. Secondly, look for ways to have meaningful investments, something that's going to make a difference. Who in here struggles with eye contact? I didn't say contacts in your eyes. I said eye contact. Who struggles with eye contact? Yeah. One of the best things you can do is make eye contact. It exudes confidence, and it shows sincerity in listening. We have a generation that don't know about eye contact because they can't make eye contact with you and yeah. We must not indicate with our body language. Pastor's guilty. I've had one too many cups of coffee, and I got 50 things dancing through my head, and 47 things got to get done, and I get stopped. And I'm afraid some of those, my body language is I'm stopped, but I'm running in motion. Hurry up and ask your question. Now, what does that do to a person when I give them that kind of vibe? Okay, you've seen me do this before. Come here, sister, come in. It's okay. It'll be over quick. Okay, be over. Won't hurt me at all. Okay. So she's talking to me, and it's kind of a sensitive thing, and she needs prayer for a certain thing, and the sister Kathy comes up, and she doesn't know what's going on. She thinks we're just talking, and she interrupts and doesn't realize it. And she's, Pastor, let me ask you just a quick question. Now, here's what you do. What am I telling her? What am I telling her? Hey, don't go nowhere. We're going to finish this. I'm going to answer this question, okay? But you're important to me. You're valuable to me. Your problem's my problem. I'm concerned about you. Meaningful investments require eye contact, body language, touch. Oh, sis, I'm with you. I believe with you. No problem. Amen. Thank you, sis. I know some of you have been through some abuse situations. I can tell pretty quickly who those are by how your response. If I pat you on the back, take your wrist, pat you on the hand, I can tell really quickly. I'm very respectful. I'm sensitive to that. Okay, being apostolic and being modest, and there's things that the world or denominational churches do that we're not comfortable with. I do think there is an opportunity and a benefit in an appropriate fashion to give someone a hug, a pat on the back. I'm telling you, we got people that are hurting, and they have been used, lied on, hurt, and we need to develop this with trust, but we need to make meaningful investments. I call it, I'm almost done. I'm turning my phone off. That means nothing. I'm calling it the notch in my holster syndrome. Preachers can be the worst about this. They're just trying to get their numbers up. Oh, we've baptized this many this year. This many people received the Holy Ghost. We had this many Sunday morning. And they teach you a Bible study, but they're just trying to get another notch. Like the gunslinger used to notch his belt every time he took out another desperado. He'd notch his belt. And he'd impress his friends by how many notches he had in his belt. I'm afraid if we're not careful, we get caught up in notches in our belt instead of meaningful investments in people. If you don't hear anything else I say tonight, you are important. What are you? How do I know that? Because Jesus died for the world. He wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's in the right place at the right time because he loves you. And because I love him and he loves you, what do? I love you. You can't say you love God who you have not seen and not love your brother who you have. You can't do it. So who thinks for the next few minutes we're going to have these focus questions like we did last week? Did y'all enjoy that at all? I enjoyed watching y'all talk. Now, I'm going to give you some numbers in just a second. We do have wonderful, delectable variety of ice cream treats. All kinds of, I'm seeing, okay. But if you don't participate, you won't get a treat. We took a survey last week. We had 3 questions. Number 1 was meeting time. And I will tell you by an overwhelming majority, you guys have put it out there that you'd like to start meeting at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night. So we're looking at the first Wednesday in August. I know that seems like a long ways off, but we want to do it and give enough time for people to get the information that starting in August will be 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. Number 2 question was our Wednesday night meal. And I had felt through low participation that maybe had run its course. I will tell you that we had a very strong still request and need for our Wednesday night meal. And so what we're going to do, we're hoping the next few days to be totally done next door. And we're going to get you set up with our church app where you don't cost you anything, but you can go in and put your name down. Yes, me and my family are planning to eat this Wednesday night. And that way we know exactly how many people prepare for. And we'll make some extra for anybody who happens to wander in. But that will make it more judicious and beneficial. And then thirdly, we ask, would you be interested in participating in a small group? And so by overwhelming majority, many of you were very interested. And so we're looking maybe the months of September, October for 8 weeks, breaking out into some small groups. You'll hear more about the details. But please, if that is not your cup of tea, don't bail out on us because we will maintain a Wednesday night presence in the sanctuary for those that prefer that type of format. Anybody got questions? Okay, so my group leaders, why don't you stand? Okay, Brother Matt, you go first. If you were in Brother Matt's group last week, would you go ahead and follow him out this door here? Go. You don't remember? He's got people. Okay. Go ahead, Sister Julie's group, go ahead and line up form with her right over there. Okay, Matt, the first room, which is right across from the nursery, that's where your group's meeting. Okay, who's in Julie's group? Sister Tanea's group, meet back there in the corner with her. Go if you're in Sister Tanea's group.